Good morning, Kitchissippi. Happy Father's Day. It is June the 18th, and this is a video version of the Kitchissippi Ward newsletter. If you're not subscribed to the weekly email newsletter, I'd encourage you to do so at kitchissippiward.ca. It does have a lot more details and links to some of the issues that we'll be covering. In the newsletter this week, a reminder that the O train is currently shut down for routine maintenance. That shutdown will go until June the 30th. The 107 is the bus shuttle alternative to that. You can visit octranspo.com for more details. On June the 19th, I'm going to be hosting pop-up office hours at Simply Biscotti. That will be from 11 until 2. That's tomorrow at 307 Richmond Road. Come on by, chat about anything that's on your mind with respect to Kitchissippi or the city. No appointment required. Also in the newsletter this week, details on the Committee of Adjustment hearing that is coming up on June the 21st. Several Kitchissippi properties on the agenda. At 198 Carruthers, the owner is seeking to demolish the existing structure, build a 3-story long semi. They need variances associated for reduced rear yard setback, reduced interior side yard setback, and reduced habitable floor space. At 287 Corral, the owner is seeking to demolish the existing structure and garage, build a 2-story, 3-unit dwelling with variances sought on the lot width and area. At 328 Dovercourt, 639 Churchill, the owner is seeking to demolish the existing structure and build a two-story semi-detached dwellings. They are looking for variances associated with corner side yard setback as well as reduced rear yard setback and area. Also on the agenda, the 1174 Gladstone property. The owner has been seeking some variances in order to accomplish an addition onto that home that was deferred from a previous meeting and will be heard on Wednesday. And also at 219 Wesley, that has been a problematic infill where the owner was seeking as much as 1 meter of additional allowed height. The city pushed back, as did neighbors. Over the course of the past week or so, they've retained a new architect. That architect has brought the height down to 8.2 meters. They'll be going to the committee on Wednesday to seek approval for that. I know that I have let my opposition be known to the applicant, and the city is also expressing its continued concern with a variance on the height. Also in the newsletter this week, a bunch of big changes for OC Transpo coming up. I can't in this newsletter describe them all. I'm at Tunney's Pasture, which when the LRT opens up sometime in mid-2018 will be the terminus for almost all of the buses that are coming from the West End. There is a quick description in the newsletter. A couple of buses that travel from Canada through to Gatineau will continue to use Scott Street. In particular, those are the number 75, the 61, and the 63, which will extend west. You can count on a bus every 4 or 5 minutes under that. That's a discussion that I'm having with neighbors and with OC Transpo. There's also a really big reorg of how all the buses really in the central area will work post LRT opening. OC Transpo's goal is to get people as quickly as possible to an LRT station to continue their journey. The 14 is one that is going to be affected. It's going to come down Gladstone and then here to Tunney's Pasture rather than continue to Carlington. I've heard a little bit of concern about that from residents. It's something that both I, Councillor Brockington, and OC Transpo are talking about. I'm hoping this week to have a more in-depth blog post up. Also in the newsletter this week, Pontiac between Cowley and Carleton. This has been probably more than a year-long discussion now to try to close that section to join the city park to the NCC park. We are in a position probably very early next month to get some planters out to at least begin that closure process. You can take a look at the blog for more details, but I am excited to finally get that partial street closure open and underway. And then also in the newsletter this week, a quick heads up, on Tuesday the planning agenda will go live for the meeting that is going to be held on June the 27th. The Wellington Diner has been seeking permission to operate a patio at its location. That rezoning will be on the agenda of that June 27th meeting. A first copy of the report has been distributed to stakeholders, and that report does recommend that Planning Committee approve that diner. So when the agenda goes live on Tuesday, you'll have a chance to take a look more in depth at that report. Also in the newsletter this week, a few fun things. The Hintonburg 5K, one more time, is open for registration. That is the Psychologic Hintonburg 5K and the News West Kids 1K, which is always a delightful event. You can visit hintonburg5k.ca to get registered. Link is in the newsletter. There is a refugee fundraising dinner. One of our local sponsor groups is hosting a dinner in Damascus at the Westboro United Church. That's going to be held on Saturday, June the 24th. The evening is going to feature some Syrian cuisine, raffles, an auction. I have the link in the newsletter for more on that. And also the Highland Park Lawn Bowling Club is hosting its annual Strawberry Social. That's going to be on June the 24th. That is always an excellent event. The cost is $6 for adults, $4 for children, $16 for a family of 4. I've got a link in the newsletter to the Highland Park Lawn Bowling Club for that Strawberry Social. Tons of fun. At City Hall, things you can feel are starting to taper off a little bit, both on the legislative agenda as we polish off a few items heading into the summer break, but it is still going to be a relatively busy few weeks ahead before the break really begins. This week at the Environment Committee, there is a couple of high-profile items. I think the headline item is going to be the release of the Urban Forest Management Plan. That's been something that Councillor Chernyshchenko and I have been working a lot on for probably a year and a half or so now. Lots of consultations. The plan is intended to give us a roadmap for how we're going to preserve some of our urban forest cover, which in this ward we are losing at an alarming rate to infill. The plan is really a set of action items that will be taken moving forward, but one of the quick processes that will begin as soon as the plan is implemented is a review of the urban tree conservation bylaw. That's been a sore point for residents in the ward for quite some time. I'm looking forward to getting that review underway before the end of this term of council. There is also on the agenda of that Environment Committee the most recent reporting from Forestry about the number of tree permits that they have extended, where and why. That's something that I sought early in the term of council, and the most recent update is now online. On Wednesday, I sit on Transit Commission. We have a fairly light agenda. The only item on Wednesday's agenda is actually closure of some of the capital projects. Those are always fascinating documents. There are at any given time in the whole city probably several hundred capital projects that are underway. Each of those gets voted a certain budget at the outset of the project. Not all that money is spent, and periodically they do the housekeeping to take the money that is in completed projects and put it back into the city's bank account. Always worthwhile to take a look in depth at what they're proposing to close. For the most part, projects are coming in under budget. They do have generous contingencies. Occasionally you'll find a project that has had an authority voted to it that doesn't actually use the funds. They close the project before it really gets underway. Fascinating to take a look through that document. A link to the agenda and the report is online. For Team Kitchissippi in the office, we are looking forward to another busy week. There are a couple of problematic infill proposals coming up that we're looking at, some localized bylaw noise issues, the long-term future of the Highland Park Bowling Club and the Granite Curling Club are keeping us busy right now. I've been working with the city for several weeks. They've been hit with some really big tax increases as a result of the most recent assessments. There is a fair bit of sympathy money at the city for the bind in which they find themselves. That's an ongoing discussion to see what we can do about those big tax bills for those two recreational clubs. Also in the newsletter, just a quick wrap up of the Connet School tunnel ball world record attempt. They have set a new world record for tunnel ball, and thanks to some generous sponsors, I'm thinking particularly of Susan Shell, but also some local businesses, that event raised a really tidy sum for the schoolyard renewal at Connet. I have a link in the newsletter to find out how you can help. Before we wrap the newsletter up, I just wanted to bring you some of the video from yesterday's opening of Main Street. Councillor Chernyshchenko and the mayor were on hand, along with Councillor Kluche and myself, to reopen Main Street. That's been a very long construction project to complete street it. I thought some of what Councillor Chernyshchenko said about the importance of complete streets was really good, and I'll wrap this video up with that. Kitchissippi, have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Complete streets, if you haven't heard that term, is quite simply the idea that the street is a public space and it is shared by many user types. And over decades, the emphasis has been on motorized vehicle travel to the detriment of all of the other users. Complete streets, quite simply, rebalances. So we now have a street that works for all of the users as best as we can in equal share.